And Amanda, to help illustrate that exact point, I'm going to show you this map of how Washington voted for president back in 2016. You could see there all of Eastern Washington, almost all rather, voted for President Trump. But this right here, this is the 8th Congressional District. And you can see it has 3 conservative red counties, Chelan, Douglas, and Kittitas. Then it has parts of King County, deep blue, and then Pierce County, which is more mixed. So overall, this is a true swing district that's both geographically and politically diverse. Crossing the snow-capped Cascades at Snoqualmie Pass, a picturesque calm replaces the congestion of urban life on the west side. Sprawling farms and open acres line the 3-hour drive eastbound to a Washington that feels a world away. A place where the issues are influenced by the surroundings. Agriculture helps drive the economy in what's known as the apple capital of the world.
Hey Mike, how are you?
Wenatchee welcomes visitors with its fresh produce and even its own public market, Pybus Public Market, known as the place where community meets.
I think one of the unique features of many small towns in Wenatchee would certainly fit this bill is a level of collegiality and working together.
So how does that affect the politics here? I asked Steve Robinson, a former journalist who has lived on both sides of the Cascades.
I think generally there's a sense that so much of the politics in the state of Washington and maybe at the national level is driven by the greater Seattle area. And there's a sense that sometimes the voices of Eastern Washington residents aren't heard, a sense of disenfranchisement or almost being ignored at some times.
The eastern part of the 8th Congressional District accounts for less than a quarter of the district's total population. But the voters here say that shouldn't mean their voices count for any less.
We want somebody that's going to really sit down and listen to us, regardless of what party, independent, Democrat, Republican, or any other one that's out there now.
Brian Burnett is the sheriff of Chelan County. Linda Harold, a Wenatchee City Councilwoman who doubles as GM of the Convention Center. Ron Walter, a former county commissioner and cherry grower in the Skolchick Valley. All 3 are Republicans and support GOP candidate Dino Rossi in the 8th Congressional race.
The candidates opposing him don't have the business experience. He is completely supported by the farm bureaus.
He understands our issues. I think he understands the importance of the ag economy. When I talk to growers in other parts of the state and on the west side, they have some of the same frustrations in dealing with the bureaucracy, the ever-increasing burden that's put on businesses.
Walter counts regulation as a key issue for business owners and farmers in the region. But another top priority is labor, the workers who make up the backbone of the ag industry.
So then we get into the federal immigration issues. My personal opinion is our immigration system is broken.
So to those who would say that the Democratic candidates would be the better party on that issue?
I think I'd rather just see both houses of Congress get together and figure it out.
I think that a lot of people have a heart for our immigrant community, yes, which in some ways is very segregated here in Wenatchee.
Kelly Anderson, a teacher at Wenatchee Valley College, also counts immigration as a top issue. But she and her friends, Lael Isola and Sue Ellen Harris, view it through a different political lens. All 3 are Democratic precinct committee chairs who met through the progressive grassroots group known as Indivisible. The Wenatchee chapter is trying to shake things up in a historically conservative community.
Door knocking, everybody knows that when they go around door knocking, it could very likely be a coworker who answers the door, and now you're out as a progressive, and that's tough for people. My own mother called me a rabble rouser.
It's new for people to talk about politics in general, even to their friends or neighbors.
Anderson moved to town a few years ago from King County and found the political advantage reversed.
This was my very first experience ever of time after time and time again on the ballot. It's a choice between a Republican candidate or a Republican candidate. And I had never had that experience before.
But this year, Democrats believe they have a chance to flip the district held by a Republican Congress member since its inception. The field of more than a dozen Democratic hopefuls who had filed initially has narrowed to 3 frontrunners.
Gosh, I am so excited to have especially these 3 frontrunners. I could vote for any one of them.
Harris says Democratic voters in the community are energized over issues including health care, the environment, and gun reform. These 3 are trying to turn enthusiasm into political activism, starting with voter registration.
You don't go out to eat with Kelly if she doesn't ask the waiter, the waitress, the server if they are registered.
So the one thing that's for certain about politics is it changes. And that's what we're counting on now. We're counting on change.
Democrats believe midterm momentum is on their side, united in opposition against President Trump. But these Republicans say not so fast.
I think the majority of the Republican Party here in Chelan County is behind the current administration, and I think he's doing a great job.
I just don't put a lot of credence in what I hear from the national media, because on one hand I'm hearing about a blue wave, and then I'm hearing about a blue drain and a red tide.
Red, blue, and purple, the 8th District has a blend of all. But party lines aside, in this close-knit community of Wenatchee, we found a common hope of finding common ground.
Leave that old extreme policy stuff. Just leave it aside. It's really hurting us, and I think it's time to just kind of let it go and try and walk towards the middle together. And what better place to learn how to do that in practice than a changing district?
If we don't come together, we'll fall apart. And we have to go across the aisles to get things done today.
Now, a quick note that those interviews were conducted before the escalating trade tensions and tariffs. So I asked the cherry grower whether his views have changed since that interview. He said the tariffs are having some impact, but he says it does not change or affect his support of the Republican Party. Both sides seem to be sticking firmly to their candidate of choice. Also, want to mention that we will be talking to some voters in the western part of the district. Those interviews will air tomorrow. And then if you want to see our candidate profiles that we've been doing, they are online at king5.com.
Very much the diverse district, that's for sure.
Totally.